See my screen right now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'm Isabel. I think a lot of you have been really loyal to our webinars lately. So thank you again for always showing up. We figured since everyone is working at home and staying at home, this is an even better time for webinars. Get some more social contact throughout the day and learn a little bit more about LEAP. So our call today is all about kinship. Assad is going to be hosting. I'm sure you've met him before. But here's a nice photo of him with Jackson, who you can hear in the background. And Assad is the Director of Partnership and Ventures at Kinship, and I'm sure he'll get a little bit more into his position shortly. But before we start the call, just a couple of details. It'll be about a 30-minute presentation followed by 15 to 30 minutes of Q&A. You can ask questions anytime in the chat window, and then also at the end, you'll be able to chime in and ask Assad any questions. Try to stay muted the entire time. There's not too many of us on the call, but I think just typing in the chat box first would be better. And we are recording this, so we'll post it on our YouTube channel and share it out through the Eventbrite link for anyone that isn't able to join or anyone else you want to share this information with. And just a little bit about LEAP. So LEAP was started a few years ago with a rise in pet startups and the increased investment in the pet industry. And we are one of the first programs designed to ignite meaningful growth across the entire pet startup ecosystem. It is a partnership between Michelson Found Animals, which is a nonprofit animal welfare organization located in Los Angeles, and Kinship, a division of Mars Pet Care, and you'll learn more about them shortly. Amy Gilbraith, the executive director of Michelson Found Animals, hosted a webinar a couple weeks ago that's now up on our YouTube channel if you want to learn more about that partner organization as well. And just about our two programs. So the first one is the LEAP Venture Academy, which is the webinars like the one you're on today. We also host pitch competitions, meetups at large conferences. We had our first female founder boot camp last fall, and also just general access to mentors, advisors, funding. Join the Slack channel if you're not already on it. Especially now, I think it's a great time to be communicating with different founders and thinking about partnerships and new ways to collaborate with all the changes happening in our world. If you have any questions about joining the Slack channel or anything like that, type in the chat box. We will be hosting more events later in the year, depending on how everything goes, but we will be hosting a lot of remote webinars. So while you're working from home, be sure to join those. Our second program is the LEAP Venture Studio. We have one cohort per year of 6 to 8 pet care startups with 3 months of programming. The rest of our cohort this year is going to be remote, just like many things. But we're really excited. We'll be announcing more information about our demo day in May soon. And the companies that are part of the studio receive up to $200,000 in funding. And applications for the studio will open in the fall, and we'll host a lot of webinars over the summer to provide additional information. So if you have any questions, comments, feedback, be sure to email us. We have a Twitter, a LinkedIn, YouTube channel, Slack channel, lots of ways to get in contact with me and Assad, and feel free to reach out with any questions that you have. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and pass it over to Assad.
Thanks, Isabel. Okay, let me see if I can share. Cool, can you see my screen? Yes, okay, cool. I'm just gonna set up my screen. Okay, so gonna chat about Kinship, and in order to talk about Kinship, we're gonna need to talk about a whole bunch of other brands as well. If I look off to this direction, it's because that's where I see your pictures and your questions. And so Isabel, chime in if anybody has a question and whatnot. And if I look up this way, it's because Jackson just spotted a squirrel up on the tree, and he's like laser-eyed focus on him right now. Okay, Kinship. So a little bit about me. I'm the Director of Ventures and Partnerships at Kinship, which means basically my job is to find the best of the best startups from around the world and help them get the resources that they need to get to the next level, whatever their next level is. And for a lot of people, that's kind of just like advice. Some of them, everybody wants a partnership with organization, so kind of facilitating that. I'm going to do my best to kind of give the background on Kinship. Dan from Native Pet is on as well, who is one of our LEAP Venture Studio companies. I'll ask him to chime in case I'm missing anything, because we are a big organization, and Isabel as well. Please chime in with anything that you think I'm missing. Okay, so Kinship. Who are we? What are we doing? We're a diverse coalition working together to make impactful change in pet care. What does that mean? We are trying to create the future of pet care. We are basically trying to find founders, innovators, industry partners, anybody who really is interested in kind of unlocking the exciting opportunities to build the future of pet care. We're calling ourselves the first of its kind coalition, and really focused on transformational opportunities, including healthcare, nutrition, and science. So I kind of like to, I kind of say, and whether this is true or not, the water cooler of people who are really focused on innovation in the pet care space. Um, we'll dive deeper into what all of Kinship is, but without, you can't know Kinship without knowing kind of Mars Pet Care. So I'm going to go into the Mars Pet Care world. Again, a lot of brands coming your way and big organization. I've been here a year. I'm still trying to figure it all out as well. Mars is a big and diverse family of companies that's constantly evolving. So we have kind of four major divisions. You can kind of see it in this chart. So you see Mars Pet Care, which we'll go deeper into. Mars Wrigley Confectionery, which Snickers, M&Ms, Twix, Dove, all the stuff that we all love and eat. And then we have Mars Edge, which is kind of creating new health products like Cocovia. And there's Mars Food, with things like Uncle Ben's rice. I feel like every week I realize another product is owned by the Mars family. Altogether, there's 115,000 associates. We call our employees associates, living by five principles: quality, responsibility, mutuality, efficiency, and freedom. And we're all across the globe. Founded over 100 years ago, and it is a family-owned company. And so Mars Pet Care, we come to work every day to make a better world for pets. You'll hear us talk a lot about that. Like I said, we began in 1935 with a brand called Chappie, and now all those brands on the right that you see, a lot of them that you know, Pedigree, Nutro, Royal Canin, VCA. We'll dive deeper into all those things as well. Do we have any questions so far?
We have some questions, but we can ask them later.
Okay, cool. Thanks. All right. So Mars Pet Care itself, 85,000 people in 70 countries across 50 different brands and 2,500 hospitals, which means, I love this stat, 50% or more than 400 million of the world's pets are touched by our products and services. I mean, that's just mind-boggling when you think about it. And 5 of the $10 billion brands under the Mars portfolio are pet care brands. A lot of people, when they think of Mars, they think the candy, Snickers segment. It's actually the pet care segment is bigger than the candy and confectionery. And the pets that we serve, those are the examples, horses, fish, birds, but most of it are dogs and cats. This is kind of a timeline of our growth. And so the top is kind of internal products that we created, and then the bottom is acquisition. So you can see that, a lot of the growth since 2000 has been by acquisition. I think the biggest one most recently was VCA, which was a multi-billion-dollar acquisition. VCA was a public company. Okay, so what does Mars Pet Care look like today? So this is took me a little while to figure this out, but basically, 4 different segments. We have pet nutrition, so the Pedigree, the IAMs, the Dreamies, the Greenies are all in kind of one segment. Royal Canin and Ukanuba are in their own. The veterinary health group with all the pet hospitals and clinics are in one. And then Kinship, which we're here to talk about, is kind of our, what we call the innovation division. And you can see the numbers of pets that are touched. So Mars Veterinary, we'll start with Mars Veterinary Group. As you can imagine, the bulk of our associates are in this group because of the number of employees per clinic, per hospital. Of these, I think the biggest brands in the US at least are VCA, Banfield, Blue Pearl. And then in Europe, Anacura and Linnaeus might be familiar to some of you who are from the UK or from Europe as well. But yeah, general specialty, emergency, um, that kind of stuff. Um, and then pet nutrition, we mentioned this before, but you know a lot of these brands. This is based out of Nashville in the States, and doing some really interesting research on new products and stuff. 17,000 associates, been around for 75 years. Do any of you feed any of these to your pets? I give Jackson a greenie almost every night. I just gave him one actually to silence him. um, Royal Canin is acquired by acquisition. Is kind of run independently from Mars, but really science-based nutritional products based out of the south of France. They also have, a presence in North America as well. 7,000 associates, and they're growing like gangbusters. Really cool group of people. If you ever get involved in the Mars Leap ecosystem, you'll meet a couple of them. Really forward-thinking and great people. And then there's Kinship, and so these numbers are probably a little bit out of date, but Kinship is essentially our innovation division within Mars Pet Care, and so we are trying to create, as I said, the future of pet care by doing things both internally and externally. And externally, we're really focused on investing and partnering with startups that are doing really cool things. And so I'm going to give you some examples of all the stuff that we're doing, and please feel free to ask questions along the way. So Wisdom Panel is our genetic testing of dogs and cats, and so really they have two main products here. The canine, the one on the left is the dog breed detection, and the one on the right is the health test and the dog breed detection. Over close to 1.5 million dogs have been tested. What it does is identifies, it produces a report for you. Let me get to the next slide. That tells you about, what type of dog you have, most likely, or the percentage wise. And then also it tells you if, because of the breed, there might be any health issues associated with your pet as it becomes, or yeah, as it lives. Really cool product. The health test, I'm just reading some stats here. They analyze over 20 genetic traits, including coat colors, patterns, and types, as well as body morphology traits like ear erectness and leg length. Really cool stuff. This was an internal product developed at Mars and is now a standalone business within the Kinship Group, based up here in Portland. That's where I'm based as well, Portland, Oregon. And then there's Whistle. Whistle was acquired a couple of years ago by Mars. It's the GPS tracker and activity tracker for dogs, and they've released a bunch of new products over the year that have been winning all sorts of awards. So it tracks activity, tracks sleep, tracks fitness and health and safety. Really cool product. They are the leading player in this category. Just some examples of some of the products. The coolest thing that they do is using the power of data to really inform what's going on in your pet's life. One of the cool things that it's doing is powering our Pet Insights project. And these are slides that my colleague Aletha Carson put together. The Pet Insight project is using the Whistle to determine all sorts of things about behavior of your dog. And so, they can tell now. They have, let me get this right. She wrote it down somewhere. It says 10 million, but it's now over 11 million days worth of behavioral information. So what they're doing is tracking things like when the dog is scratching, when it's if it's limping, and it can detect you ahead of time, or while things are going on, to tell you to go to the vet, or kind of give you insights in what's happening in the life of the pet. Really cool product. I have a slide here. So here it says they had 100,000 visits to Banfield, which is one of our pet hospitals, in which dog had preceding behavior data collected, revealing 400,000 new dermatological diagnoses, 2,500 more ear infections, 500 new arthritic diagnoses, all that kind of stuff, which just, you would never know what's going on in the life of the pet. This really provides a lot of insight. This is an example of kind of the stuff that they're able to tell. So you can see if I get this right. So you begin to see the signs of dermatological issues 3 to 4 weeks before the clients actually come in, which is fascinating, right? So really kind of cutting edge stuff using data. Sorry, Jackson was knocking at the door. Cutting edge stuff using data. Here are some of the things that people are saying. Again, we'll send you these decks if you want to read more about it in depth. Okay, another project that we have is called Puppo, and Puppo basically is a startup that's sending you the exact formula that your dog needs based on a set of questionnaires that it asks. So the food that it needs. This is a startup that was internally created within Kinship and has been rolled out. I think it's rolling out. Actually, I'm not going to say, but really interesting thing project on trying to identify what the right food is for your pet. And then we have Leap. We have a bunch of other projects as well that happen within Kinship. These are just kind of a sampling of them. We have some stuff going on in Russia. We are doing some stuff in China. Some stuff is in Europe as well. But at a high level, it was kind of the main projects. And then Isabel talked about Leap. Leap is our way to engage with startups at the early stage. A lot of you are working on projects. This is kind of the main way that Kinship works with startups is through Academy and through Studio. Isabel went through this, so we won't have to go through this in depth. So Mars also has an investment vehicle called the Companion Fund, and that's for companies that are kind of beyond the Leap Venture Studio stage. Typically, they've proven their product market fit and probably doing revenue. I'm, just throwing examples. We're probably doing revenue in the neighborhood of a couple $1 million a year and looking to raise, 5 to 10, and the Companion Fund would be a part of that kind of Series A raise. Those are just kind of numbers at a high level. The investment into Leap companies comes through the Companion Fund. So these are really kind of companies that are at that early point of that hockey stick curve that are about to take off. Focus on the future of pet care as well. And so this is kind of how we see, ideally how startups would work with us. And so, at the idea stage, it's kind of our idea/MVP. It's Leap Academy. With the seed stage company, it's Leap Studio, and with growth stage, it's Companion Fund. And this is just another way that we've kind of put it out. And so, if you have idea, MVP, early stage, or any kind of revenue up to about 10, 15, 20K a month, Academy programming is a great way to connect with us. And then for revenue anywhere from 0 to 250K a month, Leap Venture Studio, and then Companion Fund, and anywhere from 50K to above. These are just generic. Not every company is different. We look at it, especially now with what's going on with Corona, these numbers might shift. But generally, that's kind of at a high level what Kinship is. And then we also announced that we're doing a big pet care conference in the fall. I'm sure you guys have seen it. But this is really where we're trying to get the forward thinkers across the industry to connect with each other and with startups that are doing cool things to create the future of pet care. So now it's on September 22nd and 23rd in New York. Definitely attend if you're interested in this. I think it's going to be a pretty cool 2-day event. And our Leap Venture Studio companies will be presenting at that event as well. And that's kind of it. I think that one of the things I know that will probably come up in this discussion is like, you have a startup and you want to partner with one of the various Mars or Kinship um, segments or companies, like how does that work? How does that process work? And I wish that there was like a set process, but there really isn't. I would say that for the majority of startups, if you are just at the idea stage or even at the MVP stage, it's very hard to engage with us outside of the Leap Venture Studio activities. Like we get a lot of companies that say, if just picking a company, Pedigree or Greenies can give us $5K a month to advertise on our platform, that would be great. It would be a win-win situation, but it's, that won't happen unless you are at a certain level and have a certain level of traction or revenue or whatnot. And so, the other thing that I'll say is that a lot of companies will approach us and be ready to go and like think that they're doing some really cool stuff, and we agree that they're doing some cool stuff, but the way that big corporations work, like you might talk to someone today and they might remember you in 9 months when that project has gotten funding and reach out to you then, right? Like our timelines are just so different than the startup timeline. Dan, actually, I'm going to ask Dan, are you on from Native Pet?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, I just kind of, so Dan is actually, because he went through the Leap Venture Studio program. One of the best things about Leap, and Dan was mentioning this earlier today, was that it gives you a stamp of approval within the pet care industry and within actually, I would say Mars Pet Care as well. And Dan has started to meet a lot of people within the Mars Pet Care ecosystem. I don't know, can you talk a little bit about I don't know, your experience and what it's like to work with a big corporation and whatnot?
Yeah, so I think the first thing I'll say is, Assad, the slide you had with the stepping stone is exactly how Native Pet, my company, got started. So my co-founder and I kind of heard about Leap through the grapevine, and it's like the only, there's a few others, I guess, but it's like the Academy was the only one that was like pumping out programming that was designed to help pet startups. And you guys are all in the pet space, so there's not like a normal ecosystem in your city of other people doing pet startups. So, not only was it kind of specific programming, but it was also just like a community of people. And so we started doing that. It was really helpful, both just to meet people and then like the content we went through. And then, through that, we applied for the studio. So we're like in that middle step. In a perfect world, at some point, we take that third step just to complete the dream trip. But
Be our poster child.
Yeah, exactly. So, hopefully that happens at some point. But I just wanted to say, like, get involved with the Academy. It's a great win-win because there's tons of great content it's going to come out to help you run your business. And then when you're starting to think about maybe applying for the studio, if that's something that interests you, you just have spent, months hearing from different people that are part of the program today. And so you can start to get a feel for what people are looking for, what's the personality of the program, and it really helps you write your application. So from that perspective, the Academy was great. So that was awesome. In terms of like now that we're in the studio, we had a good amount of traction coming into the studio in terms of sales. We sell clean label and effective pet supplements. But we were so small, like in the scheme of things, that co-mans, agencies, like we didn't really get taken seriously. We're kind of like the pesky, persistent startup. And it's been amazing. Just like being able to say like, oh, we're part of the Mars Kinship, like Leap portfolio. And you can see like the ears perk up, and like, people that were kind of slow to want to work with us before are now like a lot more interested, just because it gives you that stamp of approval. And I think it reinforces the belief that at some time you might be a big client or a big customer. So that's been great. And then the last thing is, when you join Leap and Kinship, it feels like a small ecosystem because it's a really small part of a really big company, right? But it's a really, really influential group of people within the company. And so as soon as we got into Kinship, we've been connected with probably, I don't know, to like 10 or 15 people from Mars corporate, across marketing, sales, product development. You know, we actually spoke with the people on the leadership team today, and you can see the scale of resources at Mars and their desire to help startups. And you're so small relative to, like, you know, what Mars deals with on a day-to-day basis. You know, they're dealing with B's, not M's or T's, you know. So they're just there to help you. And that kind of blew me away, because it's a huge company. They're busy, you know, in certain instances, you maybe even be like quasi competitive, but you're just so small, and they're trying to build an ecosystem of entrepreneurs and community. And so the willingness to help and just like to, like, you know, kind of get into the weeds with us has been amazing. So rambled on, but like those three things, like do the academy stuff, it was amazing. Then like getting into Leap, you know, just it opened a ton of doors with us outside of Mars, and then the engagement we've got inside Mars has been amazing.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate that.
And I'm always just like, if you guys want to talk about stuff, like I'm on the Slack channel, I'm around. I love helping people, so like feel free to just reach out directly with any questions.